Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I just want to record a quick Gen Con wrap up before I get too far away from the event to fully remember it. Because it was my first Gen Con. It was also my first convention as a Leader Games employee, and so there were a lot of firsts for me a couple weeks ago, and I really, really appreciate it. Had an amazing experience that I want to just record some thoughts about before it is too late and I don't have them fresh in my mind anymore. So, in addition to this just being my first Gen Con where I got to walk the floor, I, of course, was there for booth setup. And so I really got a huge kick out of that experience. It was super disgusting. Like, setting up a booth is gross. Leader had a booth and a room. So we had a lot of setting up to do, but it was great because the whole team was there. We were all working really hard. But they don't have any AC in the hall that day because, like, all those back doors are open. Like, it's probably pointless to have the AC on anyway, but it is super sweaty. It's super grungy. There are little forklifts going all around everywhere. And you get like these tubs of like booth stuff that you had stored between conventions. And then you also, of course, get like pallets with the games that you're going to sell on them. So I don't really know how that part works. Things just magically show up as far as I'm concerned. But I do know that we have like big crates that somebody stores during the off season and then that get delivered to us for conventions. But we set everything up. And so that meant, setting up these like little poles that you slide fabric graphics over to create walls and to create visuals. We set up the point of sale. We set up like all these piles of arcs and figured out how we were going to sell them. And there were some in the room and there were some in the booth. And it was actually just this like wild and interesting experience. I've never done this really before. And so it was a very cool thing to really fully see behind the scenes. I helped Weird Giraffe set up their booth back in like I think PAX 2018 and it was somewhat similar. This was a large operation and I was just sort of stunned by how much preparation goes into it and then how much fun it actually was, even though it was gross. It's like do all of the putting everything together with the team. I feel like I got to know my colleagues better and appreciate them more by going, into the sweaty Gen Con trench with them and figuring out how to make everything happen. But of course, there's no rest for the wicked. So that night, there was already stuff to do. So everybody's gross. Everybody's tired. Does that stop you? No, it's Gen Con. So that night I went to a Kurt Vonnegut like party at the Kurt Vonnegut Museum and Library. Jeff Engelstein is basically helping lead up a project to get a rejected board game that the author Kurt Vonnegut designed published. And so he talked about that and there was a reception and a bunch of people went. It was a really cool reception. But the real highlight of that for me was getting to meet Amabel Holland, who was not there for Gen Con. But she definitely got curious about the Kurt Vonnegut party. And so it's just like this really happy accident that I got to meet somebody that I absolutely adore and did not have any immediate expectations to see in person. So it was absolutely fantastic. Like there were so many nice people at that party and we all just talked about Kurt Vonnegut's game and like tried the game out, ate some ice cream. It was fabulous. So, I mean, of the things that could happen around a convention, I mean, dang, that was really cool. And then the next couple days were like this blur of demoing arcs and then running around the floor and then meeting up with people I really wanted to see. So I had a couple of really great breakfasts at Cafe Patachu, which is like a very popular place for people who do Gen Con, but I'd never heard of it before. But I ate these really good omelets that were great, but the company was even better. So for one of those breakfasts, I got to hang out with basically the team from Catastrophe of people that are doing some stuff on Stonewall Uprising. So there's going to be a reprint of that. And then I also got to have breakfast with some of my absolute favorite people affiliated with Central Michigan University's academic press. So I got to like catch up with friends that I was really, really happy to see. It was these wonderful conversations to start off what was going to be a really long day. I'm really grateful actually that I've been a classroom teacher before taking this job at Leader because my morning shift was just ARCS demos wall to wall. It was merciless. So basically you give like the overview of the game and then before you can even set up for the next one, somebody walks up and they're like, oh, I came partway through that. Can you start again? And so basically it's this exercise of going for hours and hours and hours, trying to maintain the same enthusiasm for the game as you had at 10 o'clock, but it's like starting to approach 2 o'clock. And, it's about trying to keep it together and make sure that you're as on as possible for all these people who are curious about the game because they're there to enjoy the show and learn about the games. And so no matter how tired you get, it's your job to like keep it going. And so I'm actually really glad that I had experience with teenagers who ask the same questions over and over again and constantly demand attention, because it is a lot easier to talk to adults who are actually interested in the game about a game. So, I met a lot of really cool people. I got to show off arcs, which is no painful thing to do because it's a great game. And it was just a really interesting experience of like figuring out, okay, how do I take skills that I already have, and then use them in this environment? So, you can't teach the whole game. How do I hit the high points? What does this group seem to want? Should I emphasize this part because this group seems particularly interested in it? And it was just that on repeat for hours. But it was actually really cool. It's easy to talk up a game that you think is good. So I'm really glad that my first con where I was pitching games involves arcs, because it's a lot lighter work when you know that your product is really good. And with that said, it was also interesting to have like kind of a hot game of the con. The lines in the mornings were absolutely bonkers, and it was really cool to like see so much enthusiasm and to try to get people their games and to see people really want something that we were able to help them get. There was a real thrill to it that I really appreciated. And I also got to do a couple of demos and things myself. Not very many, but it was fun. So I got to hang out with the Osprey booth, and I got to like see some of the Osprey team, at dinner on one of the nights as well. They were really just great people. But David Thompson was there, so of course I went to check out War Story, which, by the way, was really really good. I'm trying to figure out how to do a video without spoiling some of the content, so keep an eye out for that in the future. I'm really really pleased with the demo that I played. It was super cool. But and then I didn't get to play too much other stuff, but I did go and play way too many pigeons over at the Ravensburger booth. Like, it I was kind of hoping it for it to be a little bit more thematic than it was, but it was a goofy game with cute pigeon art. I could see my students loving that if I were still in the classroom. It was fun. I also got to go hang out some with the Chip Theory team. So I went to dinner with the Chip Theory people wearing my Leader Game shirt. It wasn't awkward at all. Um, no, it was great. We had a really good time, and it looked like Elder Scrolls is doing really, really well at Gen Con as well. They did a lot of demos. The game seemed to be attracting the attention that I think it deserves. Of course, I'm biased because I've read all the text for it and edited that stuff really, really hard. Of course, there are rumors of typos in some of the gazetteers, and it breaks my heart because we worked so hard to get it perfect, but so far, pretty good. So that was amazing. But you know what I really liked doing the best was just kind of running around the floor and looking at all the different booths. Gen Con was a really wild experience because there were so many people there, and every single person was just letting their freak flag fly, and it was just the best. Like, I love nerd culture because it's so diverse. So like, you could be walking behind somebody in just full cosplay. There might be like a little kid dressed up as a superhero. There are clearly people who are into like a really wide range of stuff. There are people who had brought out all their medieval armor and accessories for this convention, and that was really cool. There were people just carrying around all these different games, so you could kind of see what was hot by looking at what people had in their hands and kind of showing in their game bags. And it was just this really cool experience where I got to walk around and see a bunch of people I knew. So it was really fun to like run into friends and know for sure I was going to see them again because I work in the industry now. It was great. It was a really comforting feeling. I'm just going to get to keep doing this, at least for the foreseeable future. So that was really wonderful. But I ran into, Mike DeLucia from the Dice Tower. We both talked about our lives as former teachers. And I got to see the Sadler brothers, who I'd never seen in person. That was really cool. I got to run into Aaron Trammell, who's been on my podcast a couple of times. He's great. He was absolutely delightful in person. So overall, like, just running on the floor, checking out what people were playing, looking at games. I absolutely impulse bought some solo RPGs, so we'll see if those make an appearance on the channel. That part of the con was really fun. And the other thing I noticed about Gen Con before I wrap this up was there were a lot of academic booths and academics who were present this year. And I thought that was really cool. So I met multiple people from game centers who just wanted to come demo ARCs, but they had librarian tags or were clearly from a university. I thought that was super exciting. I noticed that there were a whole lot of really cool tables. So of course, Central Michigan University had a presence, and I care about them because they sponsor my podcast and I believe really hard in their game press. I want to see them succeed. But MIT had a booth with books from MIT Press. I met several professors that I knew and had on the podcast or thought about having them on the podcast. And I also met some possible new people to talk to about their work on games in academia. So I was very happy to see that heightened presence at Gen Con, because what that tells me is that my own hopes and dreams of like seeing games taken more seriously in academia and also seeing learning and play have a stronger combined future, like that seems to be happening right now. And so I could not be more pleased with that. And then, of course, I didn't talk about it as much yet in this video because I really need everybody to watch the other video about it that I recorded with Non-Breaking Space. But I played the John Company game of my life. Like, it was wild because Non-Breaking Space created some sort of RPG overlay elements. So we played a game of John Company. It was Cole and Drew Worley and Cardner from Panda Games and me. And we just played a game of John Company, but we named the members of our family and like got really crazy with it. And it was the coolest gaming experience I've had in a long time. It is a night that I will remember for the rest of my life. And I am so glad that I got to have such a unique experience in the midst of what was already like a big, unique first time experience. So I'll wrap it up here, but that is my Gen Con. It was freaking awesome. And I honestly I'm already ready to do it again next year. Let's go. Although PAX Unplugged is coming up, and so is SD So I will be well distracted throughout the fall, and I'll have other cons in the spring to distract me until the next Gen Con. But I had an amazing Gen Con. I didn't even get sick afterwards. It was a very, very good first, and I'm really, really grateful for it. So that was my Gen Con. I personally recommend the experience. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be in touch soon. I'm getting my setup done in the home office. I don't know if y'all can see like little changes happening in the background day by day, but we are getting there. So thanks everybody, and happy gaming.